Hey everyone, this is a 2055 locomotive I picked up at the York Spring meet. I paid $40 for it and it did come with the tender. I was able to test it when I bought it. It barely ran. It started, the E-unit seemed to cycle, but it wasn't great. So you can tell it's in okay shape. I've done a lot of work on it, so I haven't touched the shell other than dust, but I've done a lot of work on the pistons and whatnot. There is a considerable amount of rust in different places. This has been through hell and back due to some shorting issues I had. So this is really the first time I took apart a locomotive. I paid so little for it, I figured it'd be a nice little project. So there she is, $40. So I'll take it apart and show you. I'm going to do a little bit of a cleaning on it now that I have it running. Okay, so here it is with the shell off. This is actually cleaned up considerably. The first major issue I had was after running it for a bit, getting it running, I cleaned out the bushing, I cleaned out the brushes and put it back together. I ran it for about 5 minutes. It seemed to be okay. The E-unit was a little sticky, but nothing to complain about. Then it just stopped running and it started smoking. So I took it off and realized that this plate had been, the brush assembly plate had a crack here, and where you could see here how there's no gap between the actuator and the plate, there had been a considerable gap. There was a lot of play, so this had worn out on this motor. And then I had a crack here, so the bottom half of the plate was cracked off, so nothing held the actuator in place. The actuator then, the magnet from that touched the magnet of the motor, and that created a short. At the last show I went to, I picked up a new plate for $3, replaced that, and that sort of got it running again. I started to get annoyed by some of the older wires. They were fraying a bit. There had definitely been some work done before, so I replaced some of the wires. I also took out the E-unit. I can't do that again now, but I cleaned out the inside of the E-unit, and then I put it together again, and I was able to bench test it. On the bench it ran just fine. E-unit cycled, no problems. The issue I then had was I put the shell on, it would run for 6 seconds and start smoking again. Not in a good way. So what I realized was when I replaced the wire to the smoke unit, there was a little bit of wire that touched the shell around this cottony part. That was creating the short. So I put a little tape around here, and then inside the shell I also put a little bit of tape. Let's see if I can show this better. Right here, just some tape so that where it touches, it won't cause a short anymore. So now that I've done that, it actually runs pretty well. It growls a little bit, so my next phase is I'm gonna kind of go through the gears again and clear them out. I'm gonna take apart all the rods, clean them up, oil them, and hope that gets rid of the growling sound that I have been hearing. But it's a hell of a puller, and for what now costs $43, it's been quite... Oh, I lied. I had to get markers for the boilerplate, and those were $1. Or, yeah, I think it was like 4 for $1 from Trainworks. That is... I don't have them here, but the markers. But I haven't put them on yet because I'm debating whether I want to refinish the exterior of the engine. It's not in bad shape. It actually looks sort of realistic the way it's kind of worn over the years and has been beat up. And I guess I need to decide if I want it to look nice or if I want it to look sort of realistic. So, alright, I'm going to start cleaning this up and then I'll run it. What I did was I took off this plate and then lubricated the gears in there, made sure they were clean, everything looked pretty good. And I lubricated the gears from the underside. I'm going to put a little bit more right here, but even that looks like it's getting it okay. Yeah, that's got some... So this guy's fairly rusty, so I don't know how great. I debated if I wanted to replace the motor or not, but it does run okay. It just growls a little bit, and this is a little beater. I'm not trying to make money off of it, so... next thing I'm going to do is I want to get the rods cleaned up. Now this is actually clean compared to what it was, but I'm going to take off as many of the rods as I can. I don't think I could take that front one off. I'm sorry, the one that connects to the 3 wheels. But the idea is I'll take them all off. I can clean those up pretty good, and then that'll make her look pretty good. And maybe at some point I'll just replace this front pilot instead of cleaning the rust out, if I can pick one up for a few dollars. One tip I would tell anyone who's about to take rods off is position it in it doesn't really matter which way, but position it, I would say, with this one up. Take a picture of it, both sides, so that when you put it back together, you can see how it looks. I took a shot like this, and then I did an overhead so I could see where these different, you know, gaskets and rubber parts are. So, all right, I'm going to start taking apart one side at a time and clean off some of these things. Okay, so the last thing, it's all put back together, cleaned up. It's actually, this thing's got a hell of a smoker just by having power applied. But the last thing I like to do is make sure it's running before putting the shell back on. So I'm just going to cycle the E unit a few times. Okay, so that's fine. Managed not to electrocute myself too bad. It's hard to hold a phone at the same time. So I'm going to put the shell back on, do another bench test to make sure I didn't create a short by putting the shell back on, and then we'll see how it runs on the platform. I did another bench test to make sure that after putting the shell back on, it would run. So, give it some power. It's pulling 8 cars. So, I'd say for $43, that's a pretty good success. The next video is going to be me working on the tender because it does not whistle. So we'll see how that goes. I still can't get over how well this thing smokes.